How many of you, in the time of crisis, fix things yourself? How many of you, when you have a bad tooth, you go to the bathroom, you get the little shiny mirror, you stick that in your mouth, you get a utensil and you start to drill on your tooth, and you start to fix it by yourself? How many of you, if a screw goes through your hand, you self-medicate and you give yourself a tetanus shot and go about your way? How many of you, if you break your leg, set it yourself, bandage yourself, take care of yourself, and do it yourself? How many of you do that? How many of you do any of those things? How many of you, in time of need, when you're really down and out, how many of you use yourself to be your own psychologist? How many of you have your own self-help? How many of you listen to your own teachings on how to get out of trouble? How many of you have your own? Nobody. But why is it that in this generation, probably more than ever before, when things go wrong, we want to lean on our own understanding? When we get hurt, when we get offended, when we have things come against us spiritually, we try to do it ourselves. I want your journals out real quick. You guys should have already had them out. Come on now. Boot camp. Nothing greater than a free sermon, I'm telling you. I love this. How many of you, since the last camp, how many of you have fallen in any way spiritually? How many of you have taken a step back at any time during the 365 we just went through? Okay. So there's some honest people here tonight, right? How many of you are still not where you want to be? How many of you are still fighting? How many of you are still clawing? How many of you believe that you can do this, but man, what I've learned in the last 365 is I need some help. Social media is not going to do it. I'll guarantee you there's no self-help on Twitter. Facebook is just run by a bunch of old people, you know that. And Instagram, we're not just so dumb that all we can do is look at pictures, are we? Was that offensive? My bad. 3 things that can keep you from going all in. How many of you have been all in since last year? Exactly. How many of you want to be all in? We talked about this a little bit. How many of you want to be all in? You're tired of the way things have been going. You're tired of the way they've been going. Now listen to me. If I said, hey, raise your hand if you want some help. If I say, which I'm going to, raise your hand if you want some help. Some of you need help. Now, if you're the ones that raised your hand and you want help, am I going to come to you and talk about your foot if your head hurts? Same thing goes with if you're in a youth group and you're having trouble with pornography. I'm not going to come and talk to you about your tongue. I'm not going to come and talk to you about how you're doing this and that. I'm coming right at the pornography. I'm coming right to the spot that's holding you back. And if you're man, woman enough, if you've grown up, if you have immaturity in you whatsoever, you want somebody to put their thumb right on the spot that hurts. You want somebody to put their thumb right on the spot that's been holding you back. If you want help like you say you did. Some of you in here need to open up and go all in. Here's the 3 things. I'm going to go real quick. And I promise I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get there really quick. 3 things. First of all, you're not your own personal surgeon. That's number one. Number one, you cannot self-medicate here. Only God has the grace to save you. Only God has the grace to help you. As Christians, we can't keep trying harder, and non-believers gotta stop thinking they're good enough. Number two, your fear of loss. Well, if I go all in, what do I leave behind? If I go all in, I know the partying's got to stop. If I go all in, I know what me and my girlfriend have been doing behind closed doors, we can't keep doing. If I go all in, if I give everything I got, and if I say who I am, if I have any integrity whatsoever, and I hope I do, if I say I'm going all in, I've got to stop some of this stuff I'm doing. So fear of loss, fear of laying down what you think you need. Number three. You writing it down? I'm going kind of fast. I know I have to. I'm not the keynote speaker here. Number two was fear of loss. Number three, you can't handle the truth. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. It's hard for you to realize what you will actually gain over what you're actually losing. See, what you're gaining is eternal life, help in time of trouble, peace that passes understanding. You see, one day we're all going to stand before God. Some people will have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Some people will have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Which one will it be for you? But it's time to go all in. Listen, I didn't want to step up here tonight. I didn't want to do one of these, but I've been listening to God speaking to my ear all day long. You have to say this. You have to talk about the all in. You have to talk about the three key things that's going to keep you, or the three key things that's going to push you. But going all in means being a person of integrity and saying, if that's me, if I want to go all in, then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with those three things. It's going to help me get through. Are you with me? How many of you are ready to go all in? Some of you, I'm telling you, I can still feel hesitation in here, even after this is the third night. I steal. I'm from Ohio, I promise. I still feel hesitation. I'm just being blunt with you. You raised your hand and said you wanted some help. So I feel like I need to enforce this a little bit. It's time to realize what we have to gain over what we think we're going to lose. I believe tonight there's going to be a word come from this gentleman walking up this way with that nice fresh beard, that nice sweet looking I Am Revival shirt. And listen to me. If you can't understand what this man is throwing out, if you couldn't understand last night, you were in a fog. I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever heard it come forth as plain and as clear as it did last night. And I believe that it's only going to be amped up tonight. But he has to know, he has to stand up here and have some confidence that you're all in. And all in starts right now. It's not tomorrow. It starts right now. It's not wait, well, when that altar call comes, man, I'm up there and I'm going to show them how spiritual I am. It starts right now with your attentiveness, with your eyes and your ears focused to what God is going to speak through this gentleman's mouth and out his heart. So are you seriously all in? Because if you're all in, you're going to run out of ink. You're going to say, whoa, I gotta get this down. You're going to walk out of here tonight Can't wait to lay your head on a pillow just to think about and process everything that just went through. Because you're paying attention, you're understanding. You need this information. This information tonight is vital to your all in. Are you with me? If you're with me, give me another shout like you did last night, Mr. Aaron Duvall. Come on, bring it up. Come on, I think enough. Come on. Yeah. I love you, Aaron.
I don't know who that was, but I think I love you too. Some of you. Power to the people. Did you guys have a good time today? Are you tired? A little worn out? No. Okay, good. All right. Well, we're good to go. That's good. I love the difference. Like camper-oriented people are just like, no, it was awesome. Let's do it again. And then there's like that next group that kind of and they're all just like, let's just go to bed. They will be. It's just it's a shift. You'll feel it. If you haven't felt it yet, by the time you have a child, that shift will happen. There's nothing more exciting than in bed just to sleep. So it is, man. Just lay down or couch it at the floor. It doesn't matter. Whatever it takes. All right. So if you let's for a moment, if you were to tell me or you were to think that you had, let's say you had the answer to all the world's problems. You have I don't know, whatever, some great message, something that had to just be taken forward, something that had to be moved forward, something that just inside of you needed it to be known, you needed it to be told, you had to get this information out. Like let's say you had a cure for cancer, right? Or how to turn salt water into fresh water cheaply, or I don't know, the secret to beating Michigan every time, right? Whatever that. Yeah, we already know that one, right? Higher urban mind, right? And so, right, but let's say you had that. How would you get it? What would you do to get that message forward? Who would you look after? Who would you go to? Who would you? Just think about what type of person would you go to? He said, listen, Facebook? Would you on Twitter? Right back in the day, maybe you guys remember when Charlie Sheen went crazy and got like 10 million followers in one day? Like maybe have him tweet something out. Would you go to Obama? Maybe have him do it on the state of the state. This dude here has the answers to whatever. Who would you pick? What sort of person with influence? Maybe somebody that had power. Maybe somebody that had press. Maybe somebody that everybody liked. Where would you go and pick? Who would you use to move the message forward that you wanted to do forward? And what's interesting is when Jesus shows up, right, he dies, he's resurrected, and the first couple people that he goes to, it's not who we would expect. He picks things differently. When Jesus calls people to move forward his message, to move forward his ministry, to move forward the truth of who he is and what he does, he doesn't call the way we think he would call. We talked a little bit about last night that there's this call that has been laid inside of us, that this word of God has been humbly planted within us, and that God is drawing us. And a lot of times when we think about it, we think of all the other people that should be called, right? We think of all the other individuals that should be doing these things. We come up with all these reasons why we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or we don't fit in, or we don't say the right words, or we have all these sort of disclaimers why we feel like God shouldn't use us to move his message forward. And the fact of the matter is, when Christ moves his message forward, he drafts people into his army. He picks people to be a part of his team entirely different than the world does. And so when he was resurrected, the first group that he goes and he picks and he says, I want you to take my message to the rest of the world, is a group of women. Which in today's society, not a big deal, right? That we kind of have equal roles and you can go out and do whatever you want. Girls, we're all about girl power. I have a daughter. I've never become more girl power oriented until I had a daughter, right? And now I'm just like, baby, you don't listen. You can do whatever you want to do. I become a feminist overnight, all right? It's just, you can't help it, man. I burned my bra. I was whatever it took, right? If I had one. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, so, right? Like, but he goes to this group of women, which in that culture is crazy. Because women, if you were a woman, you couldn't own land, you didn't have a vote. If you were going in court to testify, it took 2 to 3 women to overrule the testimony of one guy. They were entirely disenfranchised. They were marginalized. They were moved to sort of the sideline. That they were lesser than. And Christ says, I pick you anyway. Christ picks a little differently than we do. When I was in junior high, do they still do dodgeball? And is that happening? Good. That makes me happy, right? Because I think everyone should have to almost die once in dodgeball, right? That's just, it was just dodgeball, right? They do the pick team thing. They still do that? Are they not allowed to do that because it makes people sad? They do captains. Okay, now that I hate it. Let me tell you why I hate it. Because it was always the same two captains, right? It was always the two jocks from the basketball team that were doing their thing in 7th grade, and they would always pick the same people in the same order, right? It was I picked that guy, I picked this guy, I picked that guy, and then you're just like standing there just praying, like, dear Lord, just don't let me get picked last, you know, like just let me get picked before, you know, this guy, you know, or that girl, or the little 3-year-old, you know, something. Just let me be, you know, just do something. And so they would pick, and they would, you know, all the same teams, they all do this. And so one day my coach, his name's Coach Schaefer. Coach Schaefer was the scariest man in the world. Coach Schaefer's the kind of dude that, like, if his leg got caught in a bear trap, he would bite it off to get out. Like, he does not want to fight Coach Schaefer. He was just a scary man. He was like 82 years old, and it didn't matter. And so Coach Schaefer, he was like, hey, instead of using our normal captains, I'm going to pick 2 different captains. And we're all like, this has never happened before. You know, this week's sign, the apocalypse is upon us. Like, we didn't know what to do. And he goes, I'm going to pick Aaron and Brandon. And Brandon and I, we both played basketball. We weren't stars per se. I played guard and center. That's an odd, right, mix. I played the center of the bench, and I guarded the water bottles. Right, so we were there, and he's like, so Brandon goes first, and Brandon's like, I pick Eli. And Eli walks out, and Eli in the 7th grade, he looked like he was chiseled out of stone, right? It was just, and he had grown taller than any of us, and he had muscles in places that I will never have muscles. He got voted best looking and best body in our class when we were in high school. Dude, he was just big, and he would kind of walk like this. He couldn't actually throw the ball, he just sort of twist, you know, and he'd launch. But he would like go through the wall, you know? And he walks up and he's like, and they do this weird forearm thing, you know, and good news, I'm having your baby. I don't know what's going on, but they did this handshake thing, and they're all excited, you know, and then it's my turn. And I'm like, I'm gonna pick Brian. And the whole place just goes, you see, Brian was about 4'10" and weighed 85 pounds soaking wet if he had 2 5-pound weights in his pocket, right? Brian was not athletic at all. Brian had glasses that were about this thick. He couldn't see very well. How he ever drove is beyond me, but he did. Praise Jesus. And so he comes up and he's like, thanks, you know. And so he stands over there, and everyone's just looking around. What did he just do? And so then it's Brandon's turn again, and Brandon's like, I picked Lee. Lee looked like a Ken doll on steroids, all right? I physically saw Lee 2 years after this take a basketball with one hand. He threw it off the backboard, took one step in from the free throw line, caught it, pumped it, and dunked it. And so they walk, and they're hitting each other, and I'm like, break my forearm. How did they do that? You know, they're all excited. And then it's my turn again, and I'm like, I'm gonna pick Jason. Jason made Brian look athletic. Jason is now developing apps for Google, which is awesome now, but not so helpful in dodgeball, right? But I had enough of the way the picking had happened, so I was like, so I picked everybody that used to get picked last. I picked from the bottom of the barrel the entire time. You take all the jocks and athletes, I'm gonna take all these guys, and I would love for this story to end great and be like, and we killed them and everything's great. Guys, we got slaughtered. Like, body parts were flying off, heads were rolling down, right? I went down to the locker room and all the geeks were lined up and they're like, wait, if you do that again, we're gonna be really mad. You know, like, it was horrible. Why? Because there's a reason, right? And it's just a natural reason why we pick the way we pick. But when Christ shows up, he doesn't pick the way we think he should, right? The Old Testament tells us that while man looks at the outside, God looks at the heart. And when Jesus shows up, he picks a bunch of disenfranchised people that don't fit the mold that that we would think they would. He doesn't pick the people that look the right part, that act a certain way, that talk a certain way, that look a certain way. He picks the people that are on the margins of society. He picks the people that don't fit in. He picks the people that don't have it figured out. And he shows up to this group of women and he says, I realize you're disenfranchised. I realize you're marginalized. I realize you don't feel like you have power. I realize that you don't have influence or prestige, but I pick you anyway. And Christ is walking into this room tonight and he's saying, you may feel like that here. You may have heard the sermon last night, and you talk about God. God wants to do something through me. God wants to have calling. But why would God want to pick me? Dude, I don't fit in with the way society says I should. I don't act a certain way. I don't look a certain way. I don't fit a certain mold. And Christ says, I pick you anyway. I am calling you to do something for me. More than you could ever do on your own. So Christ picks the disenfranchised. Second group. There's two disciples. They're walking. If you're familiar with the story, it's generally called the road to Emmaus. They're walking by themselves and they're depressed, right? They're disappointed. Because they had a certain picture of what the Messiah was supposed to look like. They had a certain image of what Christ was supposed to be. Right? For them, they had had enough of the Romans, right? The Romans had come in and they had taken over everything, and what they saw was a physical king that was going to come and kick out the physical Romans and set up a physical kingdom, right? He was going to rebuild a physical temple. He was going to do all these things. Right? In their minds, right? This Messiah, he was going to have a big sword, right? And long hair, and he was going to paint half his face blue and half of it white and wear a kilt and say things like, freedom! But he's not Scottish, so it'd be like he's Jewish. Oy vey, I don't know, something like that, right? That's what they're waiting for, right? That they are anticipating that this king is going to show up, this Messiah is going to show up, and he's going to take care of business, right? And what somebody once told me, says our expectations are someplace up here, and the reality of life is somewhere down here, and everything in between is disappointment. And they were disappointed with what had happened. They were so disappointed that they couldn't even see Jesus when he shows up right among them. Then they're so frustrated, they're so angry, they're so depressed. Life has dealt them a bad hand. And they just want something. They were so excited. They had left their jobs, right? Some of them left their family. Some had left their friends. They had been spurred by the elitist in the Jewish culture. They had left all of that to follow after this one guy. They had been promised was going to be the one to fix everything. He had said he was going to tear down the temple. He was going to do all of this stuff for them. And now he's dead. And Jesus says, why are you so disappointed? And they look at him like, where have you been? How do you not know? The one that we had followed, the one that we thought was going to be the one to fix everything, he's dead. And sometimes, our ship of hope has been dashed upon the rocks of reality. And we don't understand why. We don't get it. And we're disappointed. My daughter, some of you guys have seen her in the back, there's this one day, and she looked at me, and I could tell she wanted to tell me something. She wasn't quite talking yet, but she was in that place where she was trying. And I look at her, and I said, honey, I love you. And she goes, and I was like, oh, this is going to be it. Like, I'm going to get the first I love. And I'm going to tell her mother and never let her forget it. You know, like, this is going to be the best moment of my life. And I look at her, and I said, baby, I love you. And she goes, and I'm like, I love Dada, right? Dada. And she's like, and I'm like, honey, say with me, Dada. I love Dada. And she's like, and I'm like, I love Dada. And she's like, I love Baba. That was me throwing her a bottle, not throwing her. Right? That's just in case anybody was made for an awkward sermon illustration. And I was just waiting, and I just knew that was going to be the moment that she expressed her undying love. We practice it all the time. I hold her up and I say, whose girl are you? And then she just looks at me blankly, and I go, you're Dada's girl. And then I say, how long will you be Dada's girl? And she just looks at me, and I go, forever, right? And then I tell her she's going to work for Jesus, right? And so I'm going to send her to a nunnery someday. I just saying that. I just wanted her, like, it didn't happen, man. I just set her down. I was like, great, here's your bottle. I hope you love it. Get colic, you know? I'm driving away. I had this image of what was supposed to happen. And it wasn't there. And I was frustrated. And I was a little disappointed, right? And I think we all, even if it's not with a child, we all experience those moments, right? Where life is not going the way we think it's supposed to be going. Where we expected more. Maybe it's something in our family. Maybe it's something with our parents, with our brothers and sisters. Maybe it's in our workplace. The life is, maybe it's in our school, maybe it's with our group of friends, maybe it's in our sports teams. That we just, man, we wanted life to be, we expected life to be better. And we're frustrated, and we're angry, and we're depressed, and we're disappointed. And a lot of times we turn that disappointment towards God. And he says, I pick you anyway. Christ shows up to these two guys that were utterly devastated. And he reveals himself to them. Everything through the pregnancy that we had went really well. Cher is a champ at just doing the baby thing. She did great. It was really easy, which made me a little nervous because I wasn't sure I wanted children. And then, we were having one, and you got to be okay, and so then it went really easy. And so I was like, she's gonna want like 20 of these things. Like, I'm not okay with it. And it just she didn't get sick. She didn't have any weird cravings. Like she liked Chipotle more, which was a win-win. And yeah, I'm like, yeah, let's have another baby. Let's eat more Chipotle, right? And so everything went great until the day of our delivery. And we went into the doctor, and he started talking to us a little bit, and he was asking us questions, and he goes, I want to run a couple tests, and he does it, put some stuff on Cher's belly, and he looks, and he's like, I think something's wrong. I think it's time to go. You guys need to pack your bags. And so apparently, my wife's the fluid that was surrounding my baby, there wasn't enough of it. You want to be somewhere 10 to 11 is sort of normal. They said low is a 6. We were at a 2. Give you some perspective. So we go in, and we're still optimistic, right? Everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna go. Baby, you're a champ. And so we go through all this stuff, and in case anyone ever wants to have children, I won't go through all the details. But my daughter's heart rate kept dropping. Eventually, my wife's heart rate dropped. She passed out. They brought it back. She passed out again. What was happening was because of the lack of fluid, every contraction was squeezing my daughter in her head. She was just under stress. So finally, the doctor comes into my life and says, "Listen, we're going to have to take her now. We can't let this happen again. This last time was too low." So we go in. She's going to have a C-section. They had given her an epidural, but what we didn't know was that the epidural only took on the right half of her body. So my wife is laying on the emergency room table. I'm at her head, and they're cutting her open. She's feeling. And she's freaking out. I'm freaking out. She's screaming. I'm looking for someone to punch. I thought maybe the doctor was a bad idea, so I'm like, just throw me a nurse, something. I just do something. Come on. Should have been the anesthesiologist, but I didn't know how to say that then. So I'm freaking out. She's freaking out. Finally, they get my daughter out, and they take her, and they're cleaning her up, and they say, "Hey, do you want to hold her?" And at this point, Shara is laying there, and at that time, as soon as that happened, the doctor's screaming at people. I don't know who was screaming at, but I was helping him. I'm screaming at all of them. And they bring in some stuff to knock Shara out. And I go and I get my daughter, and if you look at the picture, if you become Facebook friends, you'll see a picture where I'm holding my daughter. It's the first time I've ever held my daughter. This is supposed to be this very awesome, wonderful experience that every dad talks about. And in mine, what you can see is I'm holding my daughter, and I'm trying to smile, but if you zoom in here, all you see is these red, huge, puffy eyes. And I've been crying this whole time, and my wife's screaming in pain. And then I walk back, and I'm holding my daughter, and I'm holding my wife's hand, and I can tell something's going wrong, and the doctor's asking for more people to come into the room. And they're all coming in, they're talking about something, and stuff's not going right. And then they have to hit her with more medicine because it's wearing off. And at this point, we don't know what's going on. As Shara starts to go under, she thinks she's dying, and she looks into the eyes, and she says, I love you, goodbye. She goes out. And I would love to tell you at that moment that God just entered the room and everything was okay. It was not okay. I looked up at God and I said, you know what? You can do better than this. I've seen it happen. And in the midst of my pain, in the midst of my anger, in the midst of my disappointment, I don't know that I would have recognized Jesus if he walked in the room. I don't know that I could have heard his voice over the sobs. I don't know if I could have seen his face through the tears. I was disappointed. think if we're honest with ourselves today, we all find ourselves in those moments. And what's cool about Jesus is he walks with these disciples, these disappointed, devastated, right, depressed disciples. He gets them to invite him into their house, right? They don't even know this guy. They invite him in the house. Somehow he ends up sitting at the head of the table. Now, in Middle Eastern culture, this just doesn't happen, right? When you go to eat with somebody, the place of honor is he ends up sitting, not only does he end up seated at the head of the table, but he ends up giving the customary blessing of the food that the father of the house is supposed to give. And they still have not recognized. Notice that up to this point, they don't know it's Jesus. You know when they figure out it's Jesus? Look for a moment, right? They know it's Jesus when he breaks the bread and when he turns his hands. When they can see the wounds. See, Christ shows up in the middle of our disappointment and he says, I've been hurt. He shows up in the midst of our devastation and he says, I was disappointed too. I cried and prayed to my Father that there would be some other way. I watched as my disciples deserted me. I watched as my sheep were scattered. I understand your disappointment. I pick you in. Christ shows up to the disenfranchised, to the disappointed. He shows up to the doubters. Right? Jesus comes into the upper room and everything's kind of going on. And the guys, they block the doors, right? They're freaking out because they think the Jews are going to kill them next. And they come in and Jesus comes in and he shows them, he walks through the wall and eats the food. And everyone's all excited. But there's one guy that's not there, right? Thomas. Thomas isn't there. And for those of you that grew up in church, what do we call Thomas? We call him Doubting Thomas, right? What a crappy nickname, right? Like, if you go to heaven and you see Thomas, I'd suggest, don't be like, oh, dude, you're Doubting Thomas, right? I don't know if you can punch people in heaven, but I bet he'll try. You know, right? That's his name forever, is Doubting Thomas, which, I mean, if you're one of the disciples and you come back and the 11 guys, and you know what, guys are idiots, right? You know how guys are. Right? Guys say stupid things, right? They're always, you walk in there like, dude, we saw Jesus. Like, yeah, sure you did, yeah. I'd like some of that dope too. You know, that's right. Tell me you saw it. He walked through the wall. Yeah, sure, he walked through the wall. Where's the camera? You know, where's Ashton Kutcher? Someone's getting punked. You know, that's what he's thinking, right? Like, come on, I'm not an idiot. Right? He's just waiting. And then he's like, okay, you know what? I'll believe it when I can stick my fingers into his hands and my hand into his sides, which, by the way, is super weird. Right? And we hear that now, and it's just part of the Bible. But think about it a second. Hey, he's been crucified. I want to stick my fingers into the wounds. Creepy Thomas, that's what I want to call him. Right? I want to stick my hand in his side. Why would you want to do that, Thomas? First of all, that's going to hurt, you know, and you're going to get weird stuff all over your hand. And so what does Jesus do? Jesus shows up. Everyone else has already seen him. The only person left is the doubter. And Jesus shows up and he says, Thomas, here I am. You weirdo. He didn't say that. That's the ADV, the Aaron Duvall version. It's not as inspired as other versions. All right, he says, go ahead, here. Stick your finger in my hand, stick your hand on my side. It's me. And Thomas says, this has been my life verse. Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief. Lord, I believe. I want to believe. I don't want to doubt. No one walks around excited about the fact that they're doubting. None of us choose doubt. Doubt becomes thrust upon us because of the circumstances of life. And he says, Thomas, believe. He picks Thomas even though he's a doubter. He picks the two guys walking in Emmaus even though they're disappointed. They're deserters, really. He picks these women even though they're disenfranchised, marginalized. Don't fit the mold. Last group. He picks the deficient. The ones that aren't good enough. He picks Peter. I love Peter. Peter's my favorite disciple. Peter reminds me a lot of me. He's loud, right? He speaks without thinking. In my congregation, I have people planted that if I start saying stupid stuff, they start shaking their heads at me. My wife, she used to sit up front. Now she sits in the back because all the ladies that have babies in our church all sit in the back. So I have to have weird people up front now. Anyway, you don't say that, right? And then eventually when it gets really bad, they're like, right? And then the mic guy just cuts it off, right? It's just so, right? I don't have that filter. I don't have the filter. We're supposed to be born with these filters that we don't think. We think, and then we think some more, and then we speak. But I think speak. It just comes. And so sometimes that's really bad. And sometimes on stage, I tell jokes that I shouldn't tell and say stupid things that I shouldn't say, right? And Peter, man, and the third thing, so he's loud, he talks without thinking, and he's stupid. And so I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like I too can be a disciple. I think Jesus put Peter in the Bible simply because he knew people like me at some point were going to read the Bible and be like, if this guy can do it, I can do it, right? I mean, Peter, right? Every time something good happens in Peter's life, he always follows it with failure. Every time, right? Like, hey, Jesus, look, I'm walking on water. Oh, crap, I'm sinking, right? Like every time, right? Every time. Jesus, you're the Son of God, you're the Messiah. Jesus is like, hey, okay. Jesus is like, I'm going to die. Jesus, that can happen to you. Peter, you are Satan, right? I'm so close, right? Peter says, Jesus, I would never, the rest of these guys may leave you, man. I will never deny you. And then, hey, do you know Jesus? Nope, never seen him. Do you know Jesus? Nope, never seen him. Do you know Jesus? The third time, right? I said, Paul's the only one that writes cursing. We don't know what Peter says, but he curses at the person, right? Which also makes him my favorite disciple, right? And he's like, no. Gee golly, I don't know him, right? I think that's what he said, right? And so, right, I mean, three times, and then the rooster goes, and he's like, oh, dang it, I did it, right? And it's every time Peter says, Jesus, man, you're about love. Yeah, I'm about love. The guy comes to take Jesus, what does he do? Boom, cuts his ear off. I want to cut somebody's ear off, right? I want to be Peter, right? Like, come on. And so Peter, man, he just does stupid things all the time. And he's always messing up, and he's always saying the wrong thing, and he's always doing it the wrong way. And then all the disciples are hanging out. They're supposed to go meet Jesus, right? And Jesus says, hey, I'm going to be resurrected. You're supposed to meet me over there. That's where we're going. Everybody meet, right? Everybody meet. And what does he do? Peter says, hey, everybody, I know Jesus said to meet over there, but I'm not buying it. I'm going to go fishing. And everybody goes fishing with him. Peter's a leader. He's just a stupid leader, right? And so he's like, come on. And everybody follows him. They all get in the boat and go fishing. And also, like, Jesus shows up along the shoreline. And this is the other reason I love Peter. When I think of John, like, John is like the perfect disciple, right? He's the disciple Jesus loves. He always does things perfectly, right? He's the one that's laying beside Jesus when they're eating, right? Which doesn't make sense until you understand Middle Eastern eating. You actually eat kind of laying on your side. I have a picture on Facebook. Don't find it. I have a picture on Facebook where I'm eating a Ramadan meal with a bunch of Islamic people, and you actually the meal's on the floor and you're sort of laying. And so that's why it's not like John was a weirdo and he's like laying down on Jesus. Like they're just laying there beside each other while they're eating, right? And John in my mind speaks in like an English accent. He's very proper. He never does anything wrong, right? That's John, right, John? And so they look out and John's like, oh, look, it might be Jesus. We should go back. Peter's like, bump it. I am out, right? Peter strips off his clothes and dives in the water. That's what happens. It says he throws off his cloak, man. He's not wasting time. If that's Jesus, I'm going to go find out. And again, stupid, right? And he just, boom, he's going after Jesus. And Jesus says, look, Peter, right, can you do this? Like, are you sure? And he's like, man, Jesus, I can do it. And he's like, do you love me? And Peter's like, bro, I love you. And he's like, then feed my sheep. Do you love me, Peter? Peter's like, I love you. Then I need you to do this, right? And then the third time, at this point, I think Peter's getting a little sick of threes, right? Do you love me, Peter? And it says he was sad because he asked him the third time. He says, then I need you to do this for me. And what is Peter's response? Yeah, but what about John? And Jesus is like, what does it matter? What happens to John? Leave John out of this. I'm talking to you. Jesus calls the deficient. The ones that aren't good. The ones that the world would never take. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. A couple of reasons. One, doctors make more money than preachers. Fact. Two, doctors, I wanted to be a surgeon. I wanted to be a neurological surgeon. I liked the idea of taking aneurysms out of people's brains. I got to watch one happen when I was in Texas as a kid, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm the freak that's sticking my hands in people's sides, right? And you don't have to talk to people when you're a surgeon. You don't have to. You walk in, you cut up. And that was good for me, because I couldn't talk very well. I actually stuttered. I don't know if you picked up on that. I forgot to talk. Some of it is a speak thing. I don't have a filter, so I just keep going. And my church will make fun of me. They say sometimes I sound like a machine gun, right? When I start going, I'll be like, and some of the friends like, today, Junior, you know? And then I keep them out of church forever, right? But right? Like, I stutter. I do it a lot. If I get really tired, my wife, she'll laugh at me at night when I get really tired. It's worse. My staff meetings, if it's been a rough week, and they'll just sit there and they'll be like, you don't know what you're saying, but lots of sounds are coming out. You know, I can't help it. I stutter. And why would you want someone that stutters to talk in front of people, right? That doesn't make sense, God. Right? And so as I started to feel God calling me into ministry, like, I don't know what happens at your guys' camps, but at my camp, like, that was like the badge of honor. Like, you wanted to get camper of the year that year, you got called into ministry. You know, that was just your best bet, right? And we would come down to the altar, and I'd be down there praying, and I'd just, praying, and the guy beside me, he would be crying, oh, God, call me into ministry. He's crying, and I'd be beside, like, God, you called him into ministry, the big baby, look at him, like, he's bawling, give him something, leave me be, let me be a doctor. I couldn't talk, not only do I stutter, but I was tongue-tied. My tongue was finally clipped, as well as the little thing right here, the little thing right there was clipped. I had a mush mouth. There's still words that I don't say very well. I avoid them like the plague. I don't say the word world very well. I have to think about it, because if I don't, it comes out wold. Right? And then people laugh, which is not nice. Right? So when you're like at the crux of your message on John 3:16, and you're like, for God so loved the world, that is not the response you're looking for. And so I'm a mush mouth that stutters. On top of that, I do what's called spoonerisms, right? Spoonerisms is sort of the verbal version of dyslexia. I switch syllables in words randomly. I don't mean to. It's not, and again, if I'm tired, I was at a wedding person one time, and I'm standing up here, and they're doing their thing, and I'm like, it is customary to cuss the bride. And the groom was like, well, okay. I'm like, no, not in church, bro. Or any place else, okay. And so like, literally, my fear as I'm walking up on stage in front of people is I'm gonna stutter, I'm gonna screw up words, and then I'm gonna switch syllables and curse in front of you. Like, that's like my biggest fear. I'm petrified of that. You'll see, if you've ever seen me preach at my church, I sit on the front pew for the final 4 minutes of the song, and I sit there and I pray. And so as I'm walking up on stage, I'm still praying. God, you know that I cannot do this. You know that I am not good enough. You know that you should not have called me, but you did. So here's what I'm going to need to happen. I'm going to need you to take control of my mouth and my tongue. Please help me not to stutter. Please help me not to screw up the words too bad. And dear God, if you love me, do not let me curse in front of these people. And I can take you to the place. I'm actually now pastoring the church that when I was 18 years old, I walked down the altar and I knelt and I said, God, I don't know why you're doing this. But if you're calling me to preach, I'll do it. It's not going to go well, but I'll do it. It's not going to be good, but I'll do it. And at my dad's church, the last time I preached at Easter Sunday there, I remember walking up on the stage in front of 2,100 people. I think, God, this is a really big crowd. And they seem like really nice people, and I think they're going to be offended if I curse. And Lord, there's souls out there that need to be saved, and they're going to be distracted if I stutter. And God, I've already decided that I'm going to save the earth instead of the world. But I'm going to do it because you called me. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't articulate. I didn't fit the mold. And he called me to make my living speaking in front of God doesn't call the way we think he should. He walks into our world, and he turns it upside down. He walks into our lives and he transforms things in ways that we could have never comprehended. See, if God only called people that had everything together, once everything happened, everyone would look and say, well, of course it worked. Look at them. Right? If God called people that thought they could do it, right? Then they've already got the sin of pride welling up inside of them, knowing that they could do this on their own, even if God wasn't there. There was a preacher that I talked to. I found out he had built 2 huge churches. At the end of his life, it finally came out that he was living a double life. He actually had another family that he was married to, that he had children with. And I remember talking to him with my father, and he looked at my dad, and this is what he said, I'll never forget. He said, I built 2 great churches without God. I wonder what I could have done with it. God isn't calling the ones that have it all together. He's calling the disenfranchised, the ones that don't fit in, the ones that don't fit the mold, the ones that don't feel that they're in the right place at the right time. He's calling the disappointed, those of us who life has handed us a tough deck, right? That he's handed us a life that we weren't expecting, that we are disappointed, that we are frustrated, that sometimes we're depressed, we're angry, sometimes we feel like we're ready to desert because we are just so devastated. We look to God and we say, God, we know that you can do better than this. We've seen it happen. Why is this happening now? And he says, you know what? I love you. I've been there. I pick you anyways. He picks the doubters, the ones that don't understand. There may be some of us in this room today that we're sitting out there saying, there is no God. And God says, you know what? With your very breath, and the very breath of who you are, the early rabbis thought that the name of God was actually wrapped around the idea of breath. That the reason it was unsayable and unknowable was because it was just breath sounds. That Yahweh, the actual sounds are Yah, Ha, Veh, Weh. It's just breath symbols. Yah, Ha, Veh, Weh. When God created man and he breathed his life into man, he breathed the very name of himself, the very image of who he is into God. And now when a baby is born, right, you hear this beautiful, wonderful cry. And then you hear it every day for the rest of your life, at least the next 2 years, right? But this beautiful, this cry of God, calling out in the breath and name of God. You could be sitting here today, doubting in your mind or with your breath, saying, there is no God. And in the midst of that, you're actually saying, Yah, Ha, Veh, Weh. He is calling you anyway. And there's those of us that feel deficient. We don't feel good enough. We don't feel righteous enough. We don't feel smart enough. We don't feel articulate enough. We don't feel powerful enough. We don't feel influential enough. And Christ says, I am picking you anyway. I'm going to ask you guys to stand. Connor's going to come up and play or sing some poem. Musical worship. I'm going to ask everyone to bow your heads, close your eyes just for a moment. Nobody looking around, nobody worrying about what's going on. I've flown through as quickly as I could because I wanted to get to this place. Without worrying about what's going on tomorrow, without worrying about what's going on yesterday. For a moment, can we just be present here, right now? You see, when we think about the future, it causes apprehension and fear. When we think about the past, it causes guilt and shame. But when we meet God here in the present, we know that He is here and present with us, and that He is calling us to be in this moment, at this place, right now. And saying, I know that you've gone through things. I know that you've been disappointed. I know that you've been frustrated. He says, I know these things have happened in your life that you weren't anticipating, that you weren't expecting. He's like, I know sometimes you don't feel like you fit in. He's like, I know sometimes that you don't feel like that you fit the mold, that maybe you talk differently, maybe you act differently, maybe you look differently than what the world tells you you're supposed to be. And God says, I am calling you anyway. Maybe there's some of us here today that are disappointed, so disappointed to the point that maybe we're actually considering walking away from our faith. That we look to God and we shake our fist and we tell Him that He can do better than this. And God says, I understand what you're going through. I understand your pain. I too have been hurt. I too have been disappointed. I too have been devastated. And I choose you anyway. There's some of us here that are doubters, that we're saying with our very breath, there is no God. And God is saying, you know what? I'm calling you anyway. In the very breath that I gave you, even in your doubt, you're praising me. And I want to be in right relationship with you. I am calling you to be something greater than what you are now. I am calling you to do something differently than what you're doing now. And there's some of us, we just don't feel good enough. Let me confirm it. We're not good enough. None of us are good enough. And God is calling us anyway. Calling us to be revived. Calling us to be made new. Calling us to be transformed through the power of His Spirit. I'm going to pray a prayer of blessing with you guys. Here's what I'm saying. When I'm done, I want you to think about one of those categories. I want to think about your life. What is God calling you to? What is God calling you from? You made me a promise, many of you. Last night, you made me a promise. You said, whatever God's calling you to, whatever's going on, whatever's happening, I'm going to respond. If He calls me out of something, if He calls me from something, I'm going to give it up. If He calls me to something, if He calls me to someone, I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm writing a blank check. God, you tell me the price. I'm counting the cost. Whatever it is, I'll do it. Tonight, we're cashing it in. What is God calling you from? What is God calling you to? When I get done praying, here's what I'm going to ask. If you feel some sort of tug, some sort of movement or ruling by God, I'm going to ask you to come and just kneel here in front. Maybe you want to lay down prostrate. But whatever it is that you want to say, God, it's all yours. I know I'm not good enough. I know I have doubts.